overview of the film, let's start with the basics. Almost Famous came out in the U.S. in September 2001 in limited release on September 15, then wide on the 22, and Cameron Crowe wrote and directed it. You can feel how personal this film is. He lived a version of this story back in the early 70s as a teen writer for Rolling Stone. The genre, it's a coming-of-age drama with a big dose of nostalgia. It follows William Miller, a 15-year-old with big dreams of being a music journalist. He gets hired to cover Stillwater, a fictional rock band that feels so real you almost expect to find them on vinyl somewhere. Set in 1973, the story kicks off when William lands the assignment of his life, riding with Stillwater on tour and writing for Rolling Stone. He forms connections with the band members, especially lead guitarist Russell Hammond, and becomes enchanted by the charismatic groupie known as Penny Lane. The road trip becomes a crash course in life. He learns about love, loyalty, honesty, and the messy truth behind fame. By the end, William emerges changed, not just a kid writing for a rock magazine, but someone who's lived, loved, lost, and found his voice. Autobiographical origins. Here's a fun fact. William is basically Cameron Crowe at 15. Crowe really was a Rolling Stone reporter in high school. He interviewed legends like Led Zeppelin, the Allman Brothers, Black Sabbath, The Real Deal. All those wild nights, backstage dramas, and groupie stories, they're pulled from Crowe's actual memories and expanded into fiction. The character of Penny Lane, you thought she was magical. She's inspired by several real women Crowe knew on the road. And Stillwater, they feel like Led Zeppelin with extra heart and emotional baggage. Because it's based on real people and moments. There's a lived-in vibe in every scene. You believe all of it even if some parts feel dreamlike. Position in film history. This movie arrived at a cool time. The late 90s and early 2000s were full of indie films and character dramas that felt real and personal. But Almost Famous stood out. It felt like stepping into the heart of the 1970 ES rock scene with all its glory and chaos. It shows the golden age of rock just as it's fading. Vinyl's still king, bands travel in vans, and music feels bigger than life. At the same time, the film captures a teenage perspective, some innocence, idealism, and that first taste of disillusionment. Fast forward to now, and it's known as a love letter to music, journalism, and youth. It feels timeless, but also rooted in a very specific time and place. Cast and key roles. Patrick Fugit plays William. He was unknown at the time, and it works. He brings a wide-eyed sincerity, like someone who's excited to be in the story, not pretending to be cool. Kate Hudson is Penny Lane. She's magnetic, emotional, funny, and sad all at once. You can see why William falls for her so hard. Hudson made this role her own, and it launched her career. Billy Crudup plays Russell Hammond, the smooth, charismatic guitar hero. He's both idolized and flawed, giving a real sense of what fame costs. Frances McDormand as William's mom. She's overprotective and worried, but she has depth and love. Jason Lee plays William's sister, Anita, and Zooey Deschanel is Sapphire, a groupie with big dreams. Philip Seymour Hoffman is Lester Bangs, the aging rock critic and mentor who says, the only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. Crowe assembled a warm, real-feeling cast, mixing names, with new faces, each bringing their own slice of nostalgia and honesty, awards, and reception. When the film came out, critics loved it. They praised its authenticity, warm heart, and strong performances, especially Hudson and Hoffman. Crowe walked away with the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, and the film took the Golden Globe for Best Picture in the musical or comedy category. Audiences might not have gone wild at the box office, but over time the movie built a passionate fan base. The Tiny Dancers scene alone, where Penny and William sing with the whole band, is iconic now. Critics often point out how Crowe captured both the rush of music and the awkwardness of youth. The film still feels fresh, like hearing an amazing album of your past. Thesis statement. Here's what I'm diving into next in this analysis. Almost Famous isn't just a film, it's a bridge between Crowe's personal history and a snapshot of rock culture in its prime. In the full breakdown, I'll explore how the movie was made, how the story unfolds, how the characters grow, and what the big themes are: truth, fame, adolescence, identity. Most importantly, I'll explain why this film still matters. It's a piece of art and memory that speaks to anyone who's ever fallen in love with music, with someone, or with the idea of becoming who you want to be. Concept and origins. So here's the story behind Almost Famous. Cameron Crowe really lived this. He was a teenager when Rolling Stones sent him on tour with rock bands. That became the heart and soul of the film. Imagine being 15 and interviewing Led Zeppelin or the Allman Brothers. That's pretty wild, right? Crowe carried those memories for years: wild hotel parties, backstage drama, groupies, awkward crushes, honest interviews. He wanted to capture what that felt like when music was everything. For over 10 years, he kept thinking about making this movie. At one point, it was called Untitled because for a long time, he couldn't even fit this memory into a title. Eventually, he found Almost Famous, a perfect name. Like he almost made it, almost became famous, but stayed grounded. It also speaks to William, the teenage character, almost becoming a big-name journalist, but still learning who he is. This movie was intensely personal for Crowe. He wasn't just writing a script, he was reliving part of his life. That's why the tone feels so lived in. Every detail, like the clothes, the posters, the band interviews, they all came from real moments. It's as if Crowe said, "This happened to me. I want you to feel what it felt like." Screenwriting and narrative structure. Crowe wrote the screenplay all by himself. No co-writers, no big studio adjustments, just him pouring those memories into words. He called it a semi-autobiographical film, meaning some stuff is real, some he fictionalized. He took real people and mixed them together into characters. Penny Lane isn't one person, she's more like several women Crowe encountered on tour. That helps explain why Penny feels so magical, like she's part spirit, part real person. She's full of stories, emotion, pain, charm. The script makes you believe in her instantly. Because it's Crowe's own story, dialogue matters. The way people talk in the movie, how they joke, argue, confess, it all feels organic. There's humor, nostalgia, heartbreak, and awkward teenage honesty. Like when William fumbles his words because he's crushing on Penny or trying not to disappoint his overprotective mom. Crowe set up scenes to feel intimate. It's not about huge plot twists, it's about feeling. The tour bus scenes, the hotel rooms, the interviews, all of it feels spacious yet personal. You get the highs of rocking out and the lows of loneliness. The structure mirrors his growth, from wide-eyed kid to someone who questions truth, loyalty, and what being a writer means. He uses a framing device, adult William, voiceover, looking back at his younger self. That adds voice and reflection, reminding you this is both memory and story. It also helps keep the tone gentle and reflective, not flashy. You feel like you're inside someone's diary, but it still unfolds like a coming-of-age drama. Casting decisions. Casting this movie was critical. Crowe wanted authenticity over big names, so Most of his key cast were unknowns or lesser known, which made everything feel believable and raw. Patrick Fugit, who had barely acted, got the lead role as William Miller. Crowe wanted a real teenager, not a polished Hollywood kid. Fugit was perfect, awkward, eager, honest. You never think you're watching an actor, you believe you're watching William discovering life and music. Most of his major scenes are just him letting his emotions walk through his lines, which makes them feel so real. Here's a twist. Kate Hudson was originally cast to play William's older sister, Anita. But when Sarah Polley left the project, Crowe offered Hudson the role of Penny Lane instead. That changed everything. Hudson in that role practically defined the character. She's magnetic, vulnerable, confident, dreamy. Her first big lines, "I'm a Band-Aid," and later, "Don't worry, honey," feel like they come from a deep place. She made Penny an unforgettable character. Frances McDormand plays William's mom. You know, the type it's 1973, no cell phones, mom's worried to death about her kid going on tour. McDormand brings warmth, humor, and a real emotional anchor. In scenes where William comes home or leaves for tour, you feel the tension and love between them. It stops the movie from being only about rock and romance. It grounds it in family, too. All the rest of the supporting cast, Jason Lee as Anita, Zooey Deschanel as Sapphire, and Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs add their own flavor. Hoffman's Lester is brilliant. He's edgy, funny, cynical, inspirational. His line, "The only true currency is what you share when you're uncool," gives William and us a compass. That casting made the story richer. One of the biggest expenses on Almost Famous was music licensing. Think about this. The movie plays real songs by Led Zeppelin, Elton John, The Who, Simon and Garfunkel, all classics that have hefty price tags. Back in 2000, the cost to license even one big name track could run into the hundreds of thousands or even millions. Multiply that by dozens and you're talking serious money. Cameron Crowe insisted on using real music because this film is about music, about the emotional power of a song that takes you back in time. He didn't want to imitate the 70s. He wanted you to feel like you're there, and music was the key. What helped was Crowe's personal relationships. Having worked as a team journalist, he knew musicians and insiders. So when it was time to ask permission, he didn't just send form letters, he called people directly. Those personal ties made a difference. Some artists gave permission faster because they trusted him. Others still charged big money, but Crowe made sure the best songs got in. All those tracks shaped the mood. When you hear Tiny Dancer, it's not just a random choice, it's that emotional moment on the bus with the band singing together, raw and genuine. Or when Elton John plays softly behind a tender moment between William and Penny. The music drives the feeling. Without real songs, the film would lose a huge part of its authenticity. So, a good chunk of the movie's backslash $60 million budget went to licensing. But Crowe and the studio felt it was worth every penny, and it shows in how alive the soundtrack feels. Filming locations and set design /300 words to capture the 1,973 music tour vibe. The team shot across Southern California and Arizona. These spots doubled as concert towns, roadside diners, motel stops, basically the American tour route. Everything looked a little dusty, slightly worn, and full of character. Scenes on the tour bus were shot inside a custom-built set that felt cramped and real. The bunks sagged, the curtains were tattered, and the lighting flickered just a bit. You could almost smell the air inside, like it was a real bus after weeks on the road. The hotel rooms looked worn but romantic, cheap wallpaper, clunky landline phones, bruised carpets. They aimed for lived in, not polished. This atmosphere made you feel like William and the band were really on the road, staying in places they didn't own. Crowe's art direction team collected retro posters, worn leather jackets, and real 1970s furniture to fill each space. Even the little touches, vinyl records on tables, half-empty beer bottles, references to real albums, made the world feel authentic. It wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about realism. When William checks into a motel and looks at himself in a mirror next to a peeling poster, you sense the loneliness and excitement. That's in the design. The sets serve the emotion. The result, you feel the rhythm of the tour, the cramped bus rides, the awkward dinners, the sweaty concert venues, the late-night talk shouts on motel balconies. It's not a glom fantasy. It's real travel, real mess, and real discovery. Cinematography / 300 words. The film's visual look comes from John Toll, who won Oscars for Legends of the Fall. Here he creates a warm, nostalgic tone like an old photo lit in golden sunshine. To keep it feeling real, to use naturalistic lighting and a lot of handheld camera work, that gave the scenes a documentary feel like you're actually following Stillwater on tour, not watching actors pretend. The shots shake a little, the lighting isn't perfect. That helps build trust that what you're seeing is lived in. Close-ups are key. There's a shot of Penny as she sips a drink in a hotel room. Light from the street lamp outside casts soft shadows. You see Kate Hudson's face light up and fade with emotion. The camera stays close and you feel you're observing, not watching. Wide shots capture the road, an open highway stretching into the sunset, the back of a tour bus against desert plains. Those frames let you breathe and feel the vastness and isolation. Even concert scenes feel personal. The lights are bright but not disorienting, fans in the front row visible, band sweat glistening. They filmed small venues, not stadiums, to keep intimacy. Color grading leans toward warm oranges, dusty golds, reds opaque 70s palette. It isn't washed out. Instead, it feels alive, time-weathered, sunlit. The cinematography is both nostalgic and immediate, and it plays into that feeling of old rock glory meeting teenage wonder. Budget and studio involvement / 300 words at roughly / $60 million. Almost Famous wasn't cheap, mostly because of the music rights. Licensing dozens of classic songs takes a huge chunk, but DreamWorks saw something special in Crowe's vision and signed on early as a prestige project. They let Crowe work largely as he wanted with minimal interference. That's rare in Hollywood. Crowe got to cast unknowns like Patrick Fugit, push for authentic set design, and spend on real music tracks because the studio trusted the story. DreamWorks treated it as more than just another teen movie. They saw it as a cultural piece, something that could bring viewers into a past era and make them care. That confidence paid off by helping the film earn long-term loyalty, even if the box office at release wasn't huge. However, there were limits. For example, the budget didn't allow for its singles on the official soundtrack album. Some songs couldn't be included due to separate music rights. It still sold well, but it didn't make as much money as the film's influence. Even so, DreamWorks supported Crowe's decisions, knowing the authenticity was worth the cost. The safe casting, the real locations, the heavy cost of licensing, they accepted all that because they believed in this memory on screen. It shows that sometimes studios need to see beyond immediate box office. They backed Almost Famous not for instant profit, but for lasting emotional impact, and in the film world, it turned into a cult classic and cultural landmark. Let me walk you into the beginning of Almost Famous. Picture a quiet house in 1973. William Miller is pacing in a hallway, doubled over, practicing his piano sheet. He's pushed himself so fast through school that he's ahead of his peers. This kid is smart, emotional, and a little too serious for his age. His mom, Elaine, played by Frances McDormand, is hovering nearby, calling him honey, checking temperatures, reminding him to eat. Mom is loving but smothering, always monitoring his every move. You can feel both her pride and her worry. Then there's his older sister, Anita, played by Jason Lee. She's all attitude, pushing back against their mom, fighting for her own space, sneaking cigarettes. She's fed up with William acting like the perfect kid. In one scene, she calls him a walking textbook. That tension shows how this family runs on order and pressure, even though love is in the walls. William is safe in that bubble, but not happy. He feels like he's missing something. And then he discovers rock music. One night, he flips through the radio and stumbles on a live Black Sabbath track, heavy guitars roaring, drums pounding. His face lights up. It's a revelation. I know what I love now. Cut ahead, William is at his first high school party, headphones on, the music blasting. He stares into the speakers, wide-eyed. That's the moment the movie grabs you. It's raw and intimate. Everybody has that moment when music knocks your world upside down. Later, he's in his room, devouring Cream magazine, reading critics like Lester Bangs. Bangs is part genius, part rock snob with wild opinions and a sharp tongue. William reads every word like scriptures. Bangs is his idol. In a voiceover, he says, "I was 15 and I thought that anyone could be a music critic." The line's funny, but also kind of heartbreaking, like you see his innocence and ambition wrapped up together. Then comes the turning point, his first big assignment. Mickey, who works at the magazine office, calls William to cover Black Sabbath for Rolling Stone. William's mom instantly freaks out because a 15-year-old going to a rock concert unaccompanied is basically her worst nightmare. She lectures him about the dangers, but William can't hide his excitement. When he hangs up, he practically bursts with joy. But then things get messy. William hits the concert, his headphones off, his heart pounding, and it's like he's in another universe. The cameras flash, the band roars, and he's grinning until he gets pulled away by a producer. It turns out Rolling Stone needed him to cover Stillwater, not Sabbath. That moment trips him up emotionally. He was ready to dive into the flame, and suddenly they move him to the side, saying, "No, you're covering this band." Still, William is invited on tour with Stillwater. He's told they like him, they want to know who he is. His mom nearly passes out. In a great moment, she has to decide whether to let him go. We see her worry. What if she's sending him away forever? But William's tears, his honesty, push her to say yes. It's a raw, emotional scene. He promises to call to be safe. She pulls him into a hug and whispers, "Please come home." That night, William packs some records, notebooks, a telephone card. He opens the door and steps into their van, where the band waits outside. Their manager, Matt, gives him a nervous grin. He's suddenly the real deal. Mom cries. Anita just shrugs. William waves, gets in, and the van drives away. That's the moment he's no longer a kid in a house. He's on the road, and everything changes. Let's talk about the band, Stillwater. They walk onto the screen with swagger, cool, loose, half boozed, half starving for the road. We see lead guitarist Russell Hammond, beautiful and rebellious. Drummer Ed Valancourt is loud and impulsive. Bassist Jeff Beebe is funny and gossipy. Keyboardist Larry Fellows gives William advice: write what you feel, not what we tell you. That line bites. It's the first taste of the ethical tug William will face. William joins them for their first concert. He's backstage, shock dancing as they blast into the song. Then he sneaks into the audience and closes his eyes, feeling the crowd. He finally thinks, I belong here. But over that riff, he hears Lester Bangs calling him, "Be honest, kid." He glances at his notebook. He's torn between reporter and friend. You can practically see him chewing his lip in confusion. The scene shifts to late-night bus rides. William's in the bunks, reading Cream. He hears the band singing Tiny Dancer close by. He opens the door to the hallway and catches them mid-sing under yellow light, jackets off, hair long and sweaty. That scene is gold. It's unplanned, intimate, full of joy. The camera lingers, and the moment lingers in your chest. They weren't performing, they were just living. William watches and understands that music isn't just sound, it's family. Back on the bus, William's face glows. He scribbles in his notebook, "This is beautiful. I can't lose this." You feel the stakes. He sees both sides, the excitement and the fragility. He wants to report it, but he's becoming part of it. There's a moment in a cheap motel where Penny Lane shows up. Something about it feels magical. She's introduced by Russell as the band's friend. She drifts in with a jacket and big smile, kisses him on the cheek, and leans back like she's royalty wandering a castle. She dances for a moment, then sits with William on the bed and asks, "Did you fall in love?" He stutters, not sure. She nods, half teasing, half serious. He looks at her and finally smiles. And we do too. These motel scenes add color, late-night pizza, shared cigarettes, awkward attempts at flirting. William and Penny laugh until dawn about good records and bad driving. They talk about her nickname. She's a Band-Aid, someone who patches life together on the road. When she says, "I'm the greatest groupie that ever lived," she's being tongue-in-cheek, but you can feel her heart underneath. She's not just there for sex or drugs. She cares about the music and maybe about William. Stillwater puts on a small club show. William watches from the front row, cries under bright stage lights, then rushes backstage with his notebook. He jumps into a conversation with Russell about lyrics, about feeling loss and hope. Russell lets him in just for a moment before being pulled away by fans. William trails behind him, amazed. That night, William calls Lester Bangs. His voice is shaky. He says, "I think I'm in love with the band and Penny." Bangs laughs. "Be careful, kid. It gets messy." And then he gives that famous line, "The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool." That advice stabs into William's heart. It feels like he's being handed the keys to staying honest. Act 1 ends with William sitting on the bus, Penny asleep with her head on his shoulder. The lights outside are slides of town after town flashing by. He looks back at his notebook, at the interviews, at the photos, then at Penny, then out the window at the road stretching on. You get the sense his life just opened up, but the road ahead will test him. Why this works? 1. You feel William's world home, school chaos before the tour. 2. Music is shown as a force, pure joy, group connection, escape. 3. Mom and sister represent what he's leaving behind and what he's becoming. 4. The band is his new family, but it's fragile and complicated. 5. Penny is both muse and mystery, a guide through his teenage soul. 6. He listens to Lester Bangs, but also feels the pressure to be true and uncool. By the end of Act 1, you're hooked. You're on William's side. You care about his first big steps, and you're already worried he'll lose himself. Almost Famous sets the stage beautifully, and leaves just enough mystery to pull you into Act Two, where everything starts to crack open. On the road, William joins Stillwater. So William's left home behind family hugs, mom's tears, sister's eye rolls, and he's on the road with Stillwater, the band he idolizes. Their van is old, seats torn, air smelling kind of stale, but to him it's perfect. It's his first real adventure outside his bubble. They stop at a diner somewhere in Arizona, neon lights flicker while they gulp burgers and talk leather jackets. Russell Hammond, lead guitarist, treats William like a bro here. Kid, try these fries. They'll get you through the night. William eats, really listening to grown-ups who look and talk like rock stars. That night, they sleep in motels, one overused carpet, another off yellowed walls, and William scribbles in his notebook tour notes, lyrics, impressions. He's soaking it all up like a sponge. Building connections, Russell and Penny. The bond between William and Russell is immediate and complicated. Russell is charming in that world-weary way. He's nice enough to William, but distant when he retreats into musician space. He opens up sometimes, telling stories about early gigs or writing songs in hotel rooms. He says he wrote one for his ex, not that she ever heard it. William feels that loneliness, it hits him harder than any family drama did. And then there's Penny Lane, introduced in a lobby, candlelit in the lobby, like she's always been there one glance, and you understand William's heart skips. Penny is free, smiling, teasing, sending him on silly errands. She gives him her phone number on a napkin, winks, says, call when you're at the gig. He tucks that number like a treasure. Their connection grows through those quiet van rides. Penny sits next to William, her head resting on his shoulder as they drive through desert roads at night. The only sound is the engine and soft conversation that feels dangerous and wonderful at the same time. There's an early hotel scene where Penny teaches William to dance in the bathroom, original disco songs playing on tiny speakers. He's awkward and shy. She spins him and asks, more? He nods and smiles, and suddenly his teenage world grows bigger, more colorful. Trouble brews, cracks in the package. Of course, nothing stays smooth. Soon, we see sparks of conflict. One night, back at his motel, William overhears Russell arguing with the band's manager, Matt. Russell's angry about the article. He feels exposed, like he's being pinned down. Then he catches Russell practicing alone, eyes closed, guitar picking gently, and realizes that fame isn't just lights and cheers. It's pressure, loneliness, and sometimes a lifeline. William gets scooped on a rumor, too. Someone heard he's writing a puff piece, sparking distrust. Stillwater starts whispering about rock critics, and William feels squeezed between his role as a friend and a reporter. It gets worse when he interviews them at midnight. He asks Russell what happens after the show when the lights go out. Russell snaps, "What do you want to hear?" It cuts deep. William looks down, pen paused. That's a turning point. His credibility is on the line. Lester bangs warning, be honest and unmerciful. Across the phone lines, Lester Bangs steps in. William's fractured, wanting to please the band, but also feeling he's betraying them. Lester's counselor role kicks in during a late-night call. Lester, you've got to make a choice, kid. William, I don't know what I am. I want them to like me. Lester, then don't write that story. But if you do, be honest and unmerciful. That line hits hard. Be honest and unmerciful. It squeezes William's gut. He finally realizes that being a journalist isn't about being liked, it's about telling the truth, even when it hurts. It changes his face. The mix of fear and relief spreads over him. Hotel scenes and band secrets. More scenes at motels. They're not scenic places, but emotional hotspots. In one, Russell invites William to listen to early demos on cassette. They lie in twin beds, headphones on, and for a moment there's no guard up. Russell says quietly, "This song's the last thing I wrote with Russ Jr. before, well, you know." William nods, understanding loss without knowing the details. Penny's there too. Sometimes Russell cries, sometimes Anita calls, telling William they miss him. All this life is pushing him to write something real, not flattering, not fake. At another hotel bathroom mirror, Penny looks at herself, whispering, "Who am I without the music?" You see her crack, more fragile than William realized. She's more than groupie, she's a seeker. That mirror scene is powerful, she's searching, and so is William, in different ways. The party that gets away. There's a party at a ranch one night. People swarm, instruments blast, lights flicker. William tries to interview everyone. Russell's getting high. Penny's dancing with strangers, the band's drinking, flirting. Everywhere is loud. It's glitter and grit. William tries to snap photos, write notes. He's pulled between wanting to fit in and wanting to document. He ends up tired, missing a show. Russell calls him out later. "You didn't show up to support us." Bill's confused. He's there emotionally, but not physically. Russell's words hurt deep. Penny pulls him aside, looming alone beneath the stars. She touches his cheek and whispers, "All this is your story. Don't lose yourself." It's real heartbreak in Moon Shadows, the tiny dancer bus sequence. Okay, here's the iconic moment, the bus ride sing-along to Elton John's Tiny Dancer. It's probably one of the most famous music scenes in film history. Picture it, it's late, the van seats 2 lanes deep, lights flicker on overhead. Penny starts the chorus softly, then Russell, the drummer, the rest of the band join in. William opens the door to the hallway, stands there not singing, but smiling like he's found home. Some band members look teary, some laugh. Penny leans on William. He finally holds her hand. It's not perfect performance. It's broken voices, slightly off-tempo, but that's the point. It's real, human. The camera glides by, speechless. The song's about love, longing, magic. So this moment shows us why William's out there. He's not just writing a story, he's capturing something everyone feels at least once. They finish, wind rushes, laughter echoes. William disappears back into his bunk, quieter now, but the wheels turning fast in his mind and mine. Push and pull, William's dilemma. Things get tense again. William overhears Russell saying he's worried William's article will be too personal. William writes in his notebook, "How do I balance being a friend and being a journalist? I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I don't want to hurt anyone." That's the moment of growth. He doesn't have the answer yet, but he knows he needs one. Lester calls again. Lester, kid, at some point every story becomes your story. The trick is, can you let go of yourself enough to tell theirs? William doesn't know, but he's growing up fast. Romance buds and shattered hearts. Meanwhile, William and Penny grow closer. In one moment, she leans close, whispering, "You're safe with me." They dance slow, but William's face is stressed. He's 15. She's older. This feels wrong and right all at once. She leans in as if they might kiss, but instead she just rests on his shoulder and closes her eyes. That's intimacy without crossing lines, tender but undefined. William writes Penny a love letter, poetic, honest, emotional. He waits for her outside her hotel room. She opens the door and reads it, then looks away. "I can never say if I like you," she softly says. He deflates a little, face falling. She reaches out, touches his arm. He watches, fights back tears. He's learning sometimes love isn't about perfect fairy tales, it's messy, incomplete, and raw. Russell's ego and band tension. Backstage, larger cracks appear. Between shows, Taylor, the drummer, says Russell's ego's growing too big. Russell storms off sets, demands champagne. There's a confrontation. Ed, you think you're bigger than the band. Russell, I am. I write the songs. Jeff, well, you ain't writing love, man. You're writing headlines. William listens behind the curtain. He sees Russell as more selfish than he wanted to believe. That same Russell he felt bonded with the guy writing songs in hotel beds is scared and alone and wounded by too much attention. At a later show, Russell leaves mid-set. William runs after him, finds him in a dressing room, crying. I can't do this right now, Russell says. William sits with him, doesn't write. He just listens. Conflict comes to a head, the interview, and the fallout. The tension peaks when William publishes his article. It isn't a puff piece, it's truthful. He includes emotional moments, the heartbreak, the compromises, the fragility of fame. Among them, he writes about Penny's loneliness, Russell's tension, the band's disconnect. Cut to Russell opening the magazine, backstage reading it. His face goes through anger, shock, disappointment. He throws the issue across the room. The band finds William standing outside the stage door, and the confrontation pops. Russell, voice low. You betrayed us, kid. William, I told the truth. Russell, you made me feel like a monster. William tries to explain it wasn't to hurt, but tension rips through him. The other band members look at him as if he's ruined something they can't fix. Penny watches from behind, her eyes plead with William and Russell. Lester bangs again, bracing for fire. Before the confrontation, William calls Lester, William, I did it. I told the truth. Lester, now you're stormproof. William, they're not happy. Lester, you went through fire. You're ready. That call steals him. He knows it'll hurt, but that's journalism. He's not the enemy, they're speaking different truths, and that's okay. Turning the page, William's growth. In a quieter moment the night before the final show, William is alone on the bus, writing in his notebook, I am who I am. My story is their story. Mine is bigger than bubblegum and fame. Camera zooms to his face, mature, steadied, but still a kid in many ways. Why this works? 1. Atmosphere. You feel the whole rock tour life, the highs, the exhaustion, the brokenness. You almost smell the incense and gas fumes. 2. Character arcs. William gains layers guided by Penny, tested by Russell, forged by Lester's advice. 3. Real moments, the scenes feel lived in, from the mirror confessions to the van sing-along. 4. Thematic core, truth V's. Loyalty, love V's. Duty, fame V's. Privacy, William is caught in them all. 5. Emotional stakes, that love letter scene, the confrontation, the silent realization they're not extras, they're main attractions. By the end of Act 2, you see the toll the road takes on William in Stillwater. Bonds have formed and cracked. He's leaving boyhood behind, but in doing so, he's losing something too. Act 3 will show how he takes ownership of his story, but right now he's lost in the middle of something bigger than himself. Russell betrays Penny. So here's where things get messy. After bonding, Penny finally lets herself believe that maybe she means something to Russell. But one night, William catches a heartbreaking scene backstage, Russell kissing another woman. It's quick and awkward, but it's enough to break something inside William and Penny. William follows Penny into the hallway. She's slumped, eyes red. He said, "You were traded for $50 and a case of beer," she blurts out. William's jaw drops. What? He asks quietly. Penny nods, hurt washing in. To her, this confirms she's always been disposable, an emotional spare part for a musician's comfort. William can only stand there helpless. This hurts him deeply. He feels the band's betrayal through Penny's tears. It's awkward because William is stuck inside the story he plans to write, and now he's watching lives fall apart in real time. Writing the article, facing denial. William finishes the article honest, raw. He includes Penny's story and doesn't sugarcoat Russell's reaction. He's pulled no punches, but he's careful. He writes with empathy. When the magazine sends him to meet the band with his final copy, they're not ready. Russell stares at the pages, eyes narrowing. "You made me look like a drunk brat," he says. Ed, the drummer, chimes in, "We told you stories off the record." William launches into a quiet defense. "I told what happened." They don't understand, and that hurts more than anything. William walks away devastated. He did the job, but lost something precious in the process. They treated him like an outsider, saying he'd messed up their lives. That moment crushes his confidence. When he calls Lester, he's trembling. "They hate me." Lester responds, "Then they're right. We're not here to be loved. We're here to tell the truth." Penny helps Russell see. Then something important happens. Penny finds Russell alone in a dim club. They talk, and she bites back tears, saying his actions hurt her deeply. Russell is silent at first. Then, "I didn't know what it meant to you," he confesses. He pulls out a worn guitar and plays a sad new riff, maybe a song just for her. That moment shifts Russell. You see his eyes clear, like he's realizing money and fame aren't enough. He messed up, and he knows now. Penny doesn't hug him yet. She sits, calm. "Fix it," she says. And he nods, determined. You feel hope maybe they can be real again, even if broken. Final reconciliation and article publication. The next morning, William sees Russell in his dressing room. It's awkward at first. Then Russell says, "We want this out there. All of it." The band signs off on the article. William's heart explodes. He did the right thing, and they have his back. At the concert that night, Russell introduces William from the stage, thanking him for telling their story. William stands backstage, stunned, and smiles. He's earned his place. Later, Williams calls Penny from his hotel room. They approved it. She cries happy. He whispers, "I did it." They don't need pretty words. They feel their connection in that moment. William is learning to speak with courage. Penny is healing. William's voice and maturing identity. The ending editorial montage shows William sitting on his front porch back home. He leans over the published article with reader letters piled nearby, kids who identify with him, letters from Russell, even Penny's note. "Thank you for everything." You realize William's voice matters. He says, in voiceover, maybe the band is borrowed time, but the story belongs to everyone now. He's found his place, not just fan, not just observer, but someone who can tell truth through emotion. You see him hanging posters on his bedroom wall. The first ones say "Words of Wisdom" by Lester Bangs. Next line, "I'm not a critic, I'm a writer." It shows he's shifted, he's owned his identity, shaped by chaos, but grounded by honesty. Why this works? 1. Growth through pain. William suffers by telling truth, not hiding behind loyalty. He learns life's messy and holding truth is the hard part. 2. Healing relationships. Penny and Russell both learn from each other. She learns to stand up. He learns to listen. That dynamic redemption feels earned. 3. Finding purpose. William's struggle and breakthrough gives him authority. He's no longer a kid on the bus. He's authentically himself. 4. Emotional closure. The band's acceptance of the article gives closure and hope. It isn't perfect, but it's honest, and that's enough. 5. Symbolic return. He returns home, changed letters, sleep recognition. He found purpose in chaos and tie to his own story. Here's the character analysis section for Almost Famous, covering William Miller, Penny Lane, Russell Hammond, and Lester Bangs. It's in a conversational style like chatting with a friend after the movie. Word counts are approximate based on your requests. Okay, so William Miller, he's the heart of Almost Famous. He's bright-eyed, ambitious, and emotionally raw. From his first scene, pacing the hallway, practicing piano, trying to stay ahead of life, he's full of hope and pressure. He wants to be more than a kid, smart, successful, published. But he has to learn what that really means. He idolizes Lester Bangs, poring over cream magazines, dreaming of writing that matters. He's idealistic, thinking journalism is a straight path to truth and purpose. But once he hits the road with Stillwater, he starts to see the other side. Fame tastes like sorrow, loyalty costs something, and honesty hurts people. One big part of William is how he grows. Act 1, he's a kid doing homework by his mom's side. Act 2, he's dancing on a bus, singing with Elton John, feeling like he's found his place. But hurt arrives, Russell betrays Penny. The band distrusts him. He has to choose between writing the fluff piece or truth. That choice comes with anxiety and broken friendships. Be honest and unmerciful, Lester tells him. That moment marks William's turning point. He writes his article with courage. Though it hurts, he doesn't shy away. He stands by his words, even when Russell calls him a betrayer. By the end, he's not just publishing a story, he's accepting what it means to be honest, even when it stings. He sees his article connect with people, readers, the band, even Penny. He's grown from a starry-eyed kid to a writer with backbone and empathy. That transformation is real because we feel every step his confusion, heartbreak, courage, and pride. He's also a stand-in for Cameron Crowe himself. Much of the emotional tone feels like young Crowe lived it. William's story of innocence finding its voice is universal. So this analysis doesn't just look at William, it looks at how each beat builds a believable teenager who grows without losing his heart. Let's talk about Penny Lane. Listen, she's not your run-of-the-mill groupie. She calls herself a band-aid, a sort of spiritual caretaker for musicians. She shows up with warmth and energy to soothe, cheer, and heal. But beneath that sunshine, Penny's damaged, lonely, searching, and afraid. Her introduction is perfect. Candlelit hotel lobby, oversized coat, easy smile. She's cinematic, unforgettable. She carries William into a world of flirtation and tenderness. The bathroom dance scene, it's not sexy, it's sweet and messy. She's guiding him into a language of love he doesn't yet speak. She's loving and open, but she's also broken. We see her break after Russell betrays her. She says it wasn't more than money and sex, but the hurt in her eyes tells a more complicated story. She cared more than she admits. She's fragile, but not fragile enough to disappear. Penny mirrors William's innocence, but with scars. She's a romantic who's learned to hide the damage, while William's still hopeful. That contrast gives their relationship depth and heartbreak. They care for each other, but they come from different worlds, one innocent and idealistic, the other bruised. Her mirror monologue, "Who am I without the music?" is the definition of her conflict. Without Stillwater, without music, she feels empty. That's scary. She needs self-destruction and self-preservation, and that tension makes her so tragically magnetic. In the end, she supports Russell and William, acting out of love. Even when she walks away from William, giving him the space he needs, we know it hurts her too. Her goodbye isn't cold, it's necessary. She protects him, himself, and her own heart. She is essential. The mythic muse, the emotional guide, and the wounded woman searching for meaning. Kate Hudson gives her layers: sunny, sad, brave, tender. Penny Lane doesn't just color the story, she challenges William, drives the plot, and speaks to memory and longing. Russell Hammond, he's swagger and strings, a rock star icon. He's sexy, talented, magnetic, but he's also insecure, lonely, hungry for attention. He wants authenticity, but fame distorts him. In one scene, he snaps at William, "What do you want to hear?" That's the moment you realize his rebellion is a reaction to pressure. He's a charismatic leader. Another moment, he's surrounded by fans, light shining, telling William, "Kid, this is our story." But when the cameras die, he's by himself. He drinks, cries over guitar riffs he never showed, feels like he's losing himself. Russell doesn't start mean, he shares stories. He laughs, he plays. The demo by cassette in the motel scene reveals a man who creates and mourns alone. You can feel his heart in those chords. Then he breaks Penny's heart. Trading affection for booze and servility exposes the darker side. Fame can cage you. His apology later in the dim club isn't grand, it's honest. His guitar playing, his silence, they speak volumes. He recognizes his mistake, and that's a rare moment of depth in rock star stories. At the end, Russell acknowledges William's article, calling it the truth. He says on stage that William told their story. That's solid redemption. Russell didn't ask for praise, he asked for honesty. That humanizes him. Russell speaks to broken promises of fame glitter hides struggle, headlines bury humanity. He's talented but flawed, loved but lonely. His growth is small but meaningful. He helps William grow while being forced to face himself. Crudup balances charm and vanity, silence and regret. He's not the villain, just a human trapped in ego. He's a reminder, the biggest stage doesn't fix everything inside. Lester Bangs is the voice of conscience and punk. He's a legend of rock journalism, but not smooth. He's rough around the edges, inconsistent, passionate. His presence smells like smoke and honesty. We first hear him over Williams' radio. His voice is electric and dangerous. He sets the tone and ideal. Honesty isn't polite, it's necessary. He lives in a world where music matters more than comfort. His calls with William are fierce and fatherly. In one, he asks, "Kid, what are you afraid of?" In another, after the band angrily confronts William, Lester says, "Then they're right. We're not here to be loved. We're here to tell the truth." That message hits home. It frees William to do the hard thing, to write without compromise. Then there's the final line. The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. That's emotional gold. It's swagger and generosity wrapped in truth. It becomes William's moral compass. Hoffman plays Lester with equal parts vulnerability and attitude, tired denial, giving into purpose, bruised ego, giving into endurance. Even when he's gloomy or broke, he believes in storytelling and human connection. He's a mentor, but not a hero. He's messy, limited. He wants to save William from the mistakes he once made. He hands over the torch. William must run with it, but Lester sets the rules. 1. Be honest. 2. Be uncool. 3. Tell the truth even when it hurts. Without Lester, William may never have taken the risk. Lester is the beating heart of the film's voice and moral depth. Why these characters matter. Each one pushes William forward. William brings introspection, Penny brings emotion, Russell brings authenticity and failure. Lester brings moral clarity. Together, they form the emotional ecosystem of the film. William's journey is our journey, hope, confusion, mistakes, courage. Penny is the soul wild, wounded, beautiful. Russell is the cautionary tale, talent tested by fame. Lester is the guide holding William's conscience. They aren't just characters, they're parts of our emotional selves. That's why Almost Famous sticks, because it's about feeling and failing and forgiving in different forms. These people live in memory and in us. William's dilemma, friend or journalist. From day one, William feels torn. He's invited into Stillwater walking with them, sharing pizza, making music memories. But he's not just an observer, he's a journalist. That means sometimes he has to tell stories that hurt. Do I write what he says or what he feels? He seems to ask himself. This tension gets real in Act 3. William writes about Penny's heartbreak and the band's flaws, and Stillwater feels betrayed. But William remembers Lester's advice, be honest and unmerciful. It's not about being cruel, it's about not hiding. It takes guts to tell the sad parts of someone's story when they trusted you. So William learns journalism isn't just gathering quotes, it's holding space for truth even when it costs friendships. Journalism ethics, these. Fan admiration. William starts as a fan with a notebook. He worships Stillwater, wants to fit in, sees them as perfect. But Lester reminds him being loved or liked isn't the goal. The goal is telling what's real. He tries calling the shots with flattering pieces, but it feels wrong. In one scene, Russell shouts, "You made me look like a drunk brat." William's stunned. That's when he understands that journalists can't be friends first. They have to be witnesses. Love doesn't justify lies. Eventually, he finds the balance honest, but not mean. Stillwater's manipulation and media mirrors. The band isn't villainous, but they're prickly. They give William the backstage scoop, but want it spun. They worry about how media can twist truth. Russell's breakdown / "you betrayed us" kid / shows how a reporter's pen can hurt as much as gossip. This mirrors real-world band / press relations. Rock critics can make a band or break them. Almost Famous shows both sides. Bands use media for hype, but fear its power to expose them. William stands in the middle of that tension, and he learns how to keep reporting with heart and honesty. William's evolution. At the start, William is a kid in his house school, piano, mother's care. On tour, he becomes more than that. He becomes writer in progress. That bus scene, dancing along to Tiny Dancer, that's when he lets life in. By the end, he writes the boldest story of his life, facing fear. His journey is classic coming of age, small boy, brave young man. He finds his voice not just reporters' voices, but his voice. Penny's struggle for identity. Penny's role is big, but people treat her small. She calls herself a band-aid, as if her purpose is to fill band wounds with charm. But she means more. She wants meaning and respect, but often gets looked past once the music stops. She faces that in Act 3, confronting Russell. He listened too late. She demands honesty, respect. That scene shows she's not a sideshow. She's a person. It's painful, but she doesn't hide Russell's identity crisis. On stage, Russell is rock star perfection. Off stage, He's a songwriter full of doubt. He wrestles with fame and self. At first, he wants recognition. Then, when Williams' article calls out his person, he flips. But later, he admits fault and accepts truth. He stops being Russell Hammond, guitar hero, and becomes just Russell, a man willing to grow. Fame as isolation. Fame builds walls. Russell becomes untouchable to fans, and sometimes even his bandmates. When William publishes the article, Russell calls it betrayal. He feels crumbled, wounded, not powerful. Fame can make you visible to everyone, but known by no one. Band caught in ego and image. In those behind-the-scenes moments, you see the toll. Ed drinks to fill a void. Jeff flirts to feel alive. Russell demands respect. Fame looks glamorous, but it's often hollow. They live in image but crave honesty. Rock God myth critique. The film doesn't worship rock stars. It humanizes them. Lights shine bright, but the ride is lonely. Russell's breakdown, his shout to William, it's a cry behind the myth. That's powerful. It says stardom is not salvation. Imperfect humans live inside heroes. Music as emotional truth. From Williams' first Black Sabbath blast to quiet acoustic riffs, the music shows who characters are. It's more than background, it's expression. Music says things words can't. Tiny dancer bus moment. This scene captures it perfectly. It's not choreographed, it's messy and full of real feeling. William stands in the dark doorway, tears and a smile. Bandmates sing off key, but they're together. It's unity without show. It's music showing emotion bigger than anything. Penny's solo dances. She dances alone in empty venues, quiet, soulful longing. That shows her freedom, but also her solitude. She can be free and dance, but that freedom doesn't fill her emptiness. It makes you feel both her independence and need. Why these themes matter. They show real life. Telling truth isn't simple. They give emotional depth. All characters rise or falter in these moments. The music scenes don't just entertain, they tell the story. By the end, what sticks isn't the story of a rock band, but the human truths behind it. Almost Famous shines because it's about real change, how people step into growing up, step into courage, and find each other in brokenness. One reason Almost Famous hits so deeply is Cameron Crowe's direction. It's warm, emotionally charged, and never flashy. Crowe brings a grounded feel to the nostalgia. He doesn't let it get sentimental. Instead, he balances memory with honesty. The film starts in Williams' hallway, pacing and anxious. Crowe gives us close camera angles and household lighting. There's no soundtrack at that moment, just natural sound and Williams' heavy breathing. That sets a tone. This is real, believable life, not a filtered past. Crowe flits between large and small scales, covering concert stages with wide angles, then cutting to a trembling lyric scribbled in a notebook. It's not about spectacle. It's about feeling, and it works because we're drawn into Williams' world not just at shows, but at heartbreaking phone calls, uncertain smiles, and late-night epiphanies. Crowe's direction feels personal, like he's inviting you into memory, not just showing it. There's no nostalgia without purpose. Every warm glow has shadow under it, reminding us that memory is complicated. That's what makes the film feel intimate and alive. Golden light of the 70s, John Toll drenches the film in soft golden light that evokes dusty highways, warm hotel rooms, sunlit stages. The color palette, burnt orange, deep reds, green leather feels like old vinyl record covers or fading Polaroid photos. It's nostalgic, but lived in, not filtered, faces in close-up. Crowe and Toll love close-ups. Penny and mirror light. Russell's eyes when something unspoken hurts him. William's fingers trembling across paper. Those details speak volumes. If you look at William's face when he hears Penny was traded or when he holds her hand in the hall, the camera stays close enough you feel each pulse. Wide shots for solitude. When William stands on an empty stage before a show or looks out the bus window late at night, Tull pulls back. The frame widens, showing desert roads or hotel parking lots. Those wide shots remind you this tour is glamorous on stage, but isolating in between. It gives space for silence and reflection, mirrors, windows, stages as identity screens. Crowe uses reflections to show internal conflict. In one scene, Penny stares at herself in a motel bathroom mirror and quietly wonders who she'd be without the music. In another, William looks at his reflection anxiously before walking into Stillwater's dressing room. That mirror moment shows vulnerability facing ambition. Windows and stages work similarly. William watches concerts through windows, half voyeur, half participant. That creates emotional distance and longing. On stage, performers move under bright lights. Seen from the audience, Russell's instincts as performer clash with his quiet introspection backstage, dynamic movement, and documentary feel. Toll and Crowe sometimes let the shot shake just a bit during concerts, party scenes, or bus rides. It isn't bad camera work, it's deliberate. It replicates the motion of a swaying van, the nervous energy backstage, fans pushing into the crowd. It feels like you're right there. There's also handheld work in hotel rooms. The camera leans in when voices quiver, shifts when someone looks away. It's subtle if you don't search for it, but it builds intimacy. Dialogue feels more like listening in than performing. Mood-driven composition. Crowe and Toll compose shots thoughtfully. Penny walking toward the camera in an empty hallway, bathed in warm light. William hunched in a corner with notebook in hand. Those frames show inner world. They're visual secrets tucked into otherwise simple scenes. Overall, the cinematography doesn't scream style, but quietly shapes character and mood. That golden haze and close framing is memory and emotion. And it serves story, not vanity, letting us feel what they feel without flashy forces pushing us. The editing under Joe Hushing and Sarah Klein supports Crowe's tone, gentle, layered, and emotionally precise. Seamless transitions. Tracks move quickly from one city to the next. Montages show highway stretches. Reviews being written, crowds cheering. But they always cut back to William's notebook or Penny's eyes, tying emotional beats together. You feel a road passage, but also the emotional wear. Balancing emotion. Crowe and the editor shift smoothly between humor, groupies joking around, backstage bits, romance, bathroom dance, late night chats, and heartbreak betrayal scenes, arguments. None of these moments feel forced. Transitions are often silent or use diegetic sound, a door closing after a fight, echoing footsteps, letting the mood shift naturally. Rhythm of scenes. Song sequences expand in real time, like the bus sing-along. No cuts, just a slight camera move. Intimate scenes are short and crisp. Crowded party scenes are fast, noisy. Quiet motel moments are slow. There's an internal rhythm that mirrors William's emotional tempo as he learns, resists, grows. In short, the pacing doesn't push, it unfolds. That keeps you grounded in William's experience, not waiting for turn points or big reveals. Emotion flows, sometimes surging, sometimes whispering. Everything in Almost Famous feels lived in. The tour bus is filthy and cluttered, duffel bags spilling, labels peeling, bunks sagging. Hotel rooms have dented lamps, stained carpets, out-of-date coat hangers. Backstage areas are cramped and sweaty instrument cases, cigarette butts, empty bottles strewn around. These designs aren't just set dressing, they're characters. Crowe and his team collected authentic 70s posters, worn jackets, beat-up guitars. They crafted the vibe of real tour life glamorous, when it needs to be filthy, when it's honest. That cluttered, chaotic space immerses you in rhythm of late-night van chats, rushed interviews, exhausted band moments. It pulls you into the story without needing to explain place or mood. It builds character because after a week on that bus, you'd feel it too. Exhilaration and exhaustion, togetherness and loneliness, growth and grime. Quick recap. Direction, warm, lived-in, emotional memory without filter. Cinematography, golden, intimate, broad when needed reflection over romance. Editing, fluid, character-tuned, emotional rhythms. Design lived in authenticity, making tour life feel real. Together, these techniques don't just make the film watchable, they make you feel it. Crowe's focus on emotion and truth over spectacle keeps Almost Famous about people, not momentary thrills. Music in Almost Famous isn't just background, it is the story. The score by Nancy Wilson of Heart weaves through the narrative with an emotional thread. She uses piano, acoustic guitar, and soft orchestral swells to support moods without overwhelming them. But the real power comes from the carefully chosen classic rock tracks. Crowe literally built scenes around songs Led Zeppelin, Elton John, The Who, Simon and Garfunkel songs that feel like characters themselves. When William first hears Black Sabbath, it's life-changing a roar that lifts him out of childhood. From then on, songs mark his journey. When Stillwater performs or when they play Tiny Dancer on the bus, the viewer doesn't just listen, they feel together. That bus sing-along is one of the most iconic music moments ever, people singing off-key, streetlights flashing past windows, a kid in the doorway smiling with tears in his eyes. That moment isn't cinematic slickness, it's emotional healing. The song lets the band and William share pain and joy in one breath. It's community in chaos, and the music wraps them all together. Songs from the era aren't random, they match scenes perfectly. When Russell opens up in a hotel room, they play quieter, sadder tracks. When William writes feverishly, tracks with heart and trembling guitars underscore his passion. Crowe makes music a map, a sad chord marks guilt, a crescendo marks resolution, a familiar chorus brings nostalgia. Nancy Wilson's score flows between rock moments, bridging scenes with emotional hum. She doesn't compete with famous songs, but gently echoes them. When Penny and William speak quietly, you'll hear piano backing that softens pain but doesn't drown it. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it faintly hums the same emotional beat that Elton's choruses carry. So when music plays, it doesn't say, "This is big." It says, "This is real." Almost Famous makes the songs and the gaps between them the emotional center. The audience lives through the same rhythm the characters do: excited, heartbroken, hopeful, and changed. Diegetic sound is when what you hear is what the characters hear. Almost Famous uses this smartly crowd noise, instruments, tuning, low murmurs, breathy lines in hotel rooms to ground scenes in realism. At concerts, you're close enough to hear strings wobble, drums slap, and fans scream. The sound isn't clean, sometimes the speakers crackle or someone shouts in the corner. That realism puts you in a crowd, sweaty and alive. You hear adrenaline, not polished playback. Then the film switches to silence or near silence, like William alone in a motel room, flipping through notebooks. The music cuts. You hear only a humming heater or his pen tapping. That quiet amplifies his isolation. He's away from home, away from comfort, trying to figure things out. Penny's hotel reflection scene uses this too. It's just dripping tap water, her breaths. No music. That quiet moment says more about her loneliness than dialogue ever could. There's also subtle ambient sound, distant highway restaurant chatter, footsteps in empty halls that keeps you in place. It makes the world feel real, personal, lived in, not a set. In climactic moments, sound pulls back to let chaos happen. When Williams' article drops, you hear gasps behind the curtain, then muffled screaming as he confronts Russell. It's all immediate sound, no swelling score. That raw sound captures betrayal and heartbreak better than music could. The interplay between live sound and silence shapes emotion. Loud loves you and quiet makes you feel the ache. Williams' lonely moments feel heavier when scenes are empty. Band highs sound richer when you hear the crowd. The film doesn't lead you, it lets you listen and feel. In Almost Famous, songs are characters too. Each one reflects someone's heart. Elton John's Tiny Dancer, hope, unity, emotional connection. The sing-along shows people uniting through music, imperfect but real. Led Zeppelin tracks confusion and raw energy. When William first hears them, they crack open his soul. It's the roar of wanting to belong. Simon Garfunkel or The Who lyric-driven reflective songs matched moments of sadness and thought. Penny's musical theme, often acoustic, wistful, and dreamy, mirrors her nature. When she's introspective, you hear soft guitar or piano under her words. It echoes her longing and ethereal glow. So music isn't just in the soundtrack, it's character voice. You feel who they are through what they listen to and what plays behind them. Why this sound design matters: emotional cohesion, music, and silence guide feeling, not just sound. Realism, diegetic audio builds authenticity, concerts sound alive, hotel rooms feel empty. Character reflection, songs, and scores mirror emotion and identity. Memory and music, it turns moments into emotional memories, shared, imperfect, and unforgettable. The film shows how music isn't just background, it's the emotional terrain, the connection, the comfort, and the heartbreak. Paying close attention to that makes Almost Famous feel not just seen, but felt. When Almost Famous debuted, critics fell in love with it. On Metacritic, it holds a 90/100, meaning universal acclaim, and most reviews were glowing. On Rotten Tomatoes, critics praised its heart, authenticity, and storytelling. Pepperdine Graphic 1, Reddit 2. Roger Ebert called it the best film of 2004 out of 4 stars and described it as funny and touching in so many different ways. Wikipedia 3, Scott of the New York Times said, its magic lies not in the story, but in its dozens of offbeat, memorable scenes like hearing your favorite album once you've seen it. Wikipedia 3 and Richard Corliss of Time praised the screenplay. He argued that every character has a reason, making even fictional figures feel fully alive. Wikipedia 3. Kate Hudson as Penny Lane drew special attention. Many saw her as breakout magic director Robert Altman said she lights up the scene and the screen. SFGA TE4, her performance brought warmth, charisma, and gentle sadness. Critics called her both luminous and layered. Real Views Movie Reviews 5, The Tech Vortex 6. Philip Seymour Hoffman's Lester Bangs stole scenes with his witty lines and raw wisdom. Critics said his presence anchored the film's moral core. Killer Movies labeled his role as scene-stealing brilliance, arguing he deserved award attention purely for talent. Killer Movies 7. Things you'll find in reviews repeatedly: how unsentimental the film feels, yet full of emotion. How Crowe's writing lines every scene with humor, honesty, and nostalgia. As BBC Films put it, Williams' decent kid energy, Hudson's nuance, and Crowe's heartfelt direction make the film shine. BBC 8. In short, critics saw sincerity. They saw aging rock mixed with youthful awe, and a filmmaker sharing his heart visibly. It resonated with both fans of music and lovers of grounded, emotional storytelling. At the box office, Almost Famous wasn't a runaway hit. It earned less than its roughly $60 million budget, mainly due to high licensing costs. But it didn't vanish, it built a devoted following over time. Golden Globes 9, the Tech Vortex 6. The word of mouth buzz grew slowly. For many viewers, that Tiny Dancer Bus sing-along became unforgettable. People talk about it as a rite of passage, seeing friends sharing wires, lights, and tears. It didn't just make them smile, it made them remember their own moments of belonging. Hundreds of online posts echo that feeling. That's my film. I felt it in my chest. FGA TA4, Killer Movie 7. The Tiny Dancer moment is now quoted endlessly on social media, in articles sometimes just remembered by humming it in quiet. FI even nominated it among its 100 Years, 100 Songs, underlining how that scene still stands out. Wikipedia 10. Young viewers found Almost Famous and made it their own. Many consider it the ultimate music movie. On Reddit, one fan wrote, "I would watch it again with fresh eyes if I could. I was caught in its glow." Metacritic 11 other posts say, "Miss one moment and you'll regret it." The emotional connection translates into repeated viewings, shared memories, and annual group watch-alongs. Part of its cult status comes from nostalgia. People who lived through the 70s relate to the road culture, the albums, the smoky energy. Younger audiences see it as an idealized era. Either way, the emotional honesty feels timeless. Quotes like Lester's famous line, "The only true currency, what you share when you're uncool," pop up on discussion boards and playlists often, showing the film's messages continue to resonate.
TheGuardian.com, 12, Metacritic 11.
Almost Famous was a darling of awards season. Cameron Crowe won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Wikipedia 10, Wikipedia 13, Kate Hudson earned the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress, while the film also won Golden Globe for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy. Francois McDormand was nominated too, as was Crowe himself, for Best Screenplay. Golden Globes 14. It earned nominations for Best Supporting Actress, Kate Hudson, and Best Film Editing, and also got nods from BAFT, a WGA, and SAG, highlighting the cast and writing. The Tech Vortex 6. Moreover, the soundtrack received a Grammy for Best Compilation thanks to its seamless blend of period tracks. Wikipedia 10. The film consistently appears on lists like Top Coming-of-Age Movies and Best Music Films of all time. That kind of sustained respect from critics and institutions shows it became more than a story, it became a benchmark. Let me know if you'd like to move into cultural legacy, final thoughts, or anything else next. 1 pepperdine-graphic.com/film-review-almost-famous-still-rocks-20-years-later/question mark up and source equals chat.com film review. Almost Famous is still rocks 20 years later, Pepperdine Graphic.
To www.reddit.com/r/cineshots/comments/IW0B9B question mark up source equals chat.com. Almost Famous 2000.
3 en.wikipedia.org/wiki/almost famous. Source equals chat.com. Almost Famous. 4 www.sfgate.com/entertainment/article/already-famous-praise-almost-famous-crow-s-2740129.vp question mark up source equals chat.com. Already famous praise almost famous/crows new. Comedy generating a buzz. 5 www.realviews.net/realviews slash almost dash famous question mark source equals chatch.com almost famous reviews movie reviews.
6. The vortex.com slash 2023 slash 03 slash 29 slash almost dash famous dash movie dash review slash question mark source equals chat.com riveting. Reasons why Most Famous remains a timeless classic, the Tech Vortex.
7. www.killermovies.com slash a slash almost famous slash reviews slash I.html question mark source equals chatch.com almost famous movie review. 8. www.bbc.com slash films slash 2001 slash 02 slash 06 slash almost famous 2001 review. Source equals chatch.com BBC Films Review Almost Famous. 9. goldenglobes.com slash articles slash 2001 dash musical dash or dash comedy dash almost dash famous slash question mark source equals chatch.com 2001 musical or comedy almost famous Golden Globe. 10. en.wikipedia.org slash wiki slash list of accolades received by almost famous source equals chatch.com list of accolades received by almost famous.
11. www.metacritic.com slash movie slash almost dash famous slash question mark source equals chatch.com almost famous reviews Metacritic.
The film's artistic success inspired storytellers to mix personal coming-of-age tales with music-driven narratives. Filmmakers like John Carney, Begin Again, and Gurinder Chaudhary, Blinded by the Light, have cited Almost Famous as a blueprint, intimate, musical, human. Pitchfork 6. These films echo Crowe's melodic rhythms, not bombastic rock stars, but people shaped by music and longing. Like in Begin Again, where songs become emotional breakthroughs, or Sound of Metal, where sound loss shifts identity, Almost Famous gave filmmakers permission to make sound and feeling inseparable. Vanity Fair 7. Crowe style blending real 1970s era music with fictional storytelling encouraged a wave of films to curate soundtracks carefully. Rather than filler music, songs became emotional punctuation. Smackmedia.ca 8, Classics Authority 9. Even stage musicals followed. The Broadway adaptation of Almost Famous premiered in 2022, with period costumes and original songs showing that the film's influence extended beyond cinema. AW.com 10. Across the 21st century, Almost Famous consistently appears on lists of the decade's profound music films. Its legacy helped reframe music movies from flashy performance pieces into character-driven emotional journeys. Let's talk about Penny Lane. She's become more than a character. She's evolved into a figure that represents the mythic side of music culture. On the surface, she's a groupie, but Almost Famous reframed that image. Penny is visionary, empathetic, emotional. Wikipedia 2, Wikipedia 11. In many past rock stories, the groupie was sidelined or dismissed, but Penny changed the game. She's part heroine, part wanderer, holding hopes and heartbreak. Crowe based her on real women like Penny Trumbull, who defied stereotypes. Wikipedia 11, The New Yorker 12. Over time, fans and critics reinterpreted Penny as a complex symbol rather than a fantasy. Her lines, "Don't worry, honey. Everybody's got a point of view," shows she backs others but craves her own identity. In critical essays and fan love notes, Penny is praised for vulnerability masked in charisma. Smackmedia.ca Pitchfork 6, she influenced future portrayals, female characters who exist inside creative scenes but aren't defined by men. She helped shift the cultural view of 1970s music women from decoration to mythic soul. Why this legacy still matters? Music nostalgia reignited affection for 1970s rock with authenticity and emotion. Pronash.co1 film inspired by the film emotional music dramas followed, carrying its tone and honesty. Smackmedia.ca8 Wikipedia 13 Penny Lane's enduring archetype shifted how groupie culture and creative women in music are understood. Wikipedia 11 Almost Famous didn't just tell a story, it changed how we remember music, feel fandom, and frame coming of age through song. It remains a living influence, a film that shaped culture as much as it celebrated it. Would you like to continue with final thoughts and conclusion or dig into other areas? 1. pronash.co/policy/almost-famous-soundtrack-a-memories.hotmail?utm source equals chatbot.com almost famous soundtrack, a journey through music and memories. 2. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/almost-famous source equals chat.com almost famous. 3. tonadif.thebrag.com/12 dash soundtracks dash shaped dash music dash tastes slash question mark source equals chatbot.com 12 soundtracks that shaped your generation's music taste.
4. pitchfork.com/thepitch/901 almost famous and gifting musical memory question mark source equals chatbot.com almost famous and gifting musical memory.
5. www.reddit.com/r/askhistorians/comments/jepjets?utm source equals chadjep.com. We seem to be in the midst of a wave of 70s and 80s nostalgia, particularly when it comes to all things music and pop culture. Is there a precedent for this, particularly amongst young people who didn't live through it?
6. pitchfork.com/thepitch/901 almost famous and gifting musical memory question mark source equals chat.com almost famous and gifting musical memory pitchfork.
7. www.vanityfair.com/hollywood/2015/Cameron-Crowe-music-interview source equals chat.com Cameron Crowe takes us on a musical tour through his filmography. 8. www.smackmedia.ca/deep-cuts/what-almost-famous-got-right-music-fandom source equals chat.com what almost famous got right about music fandom. 9. www.classics-authority.com/movies/musical-music-the-impact-of-classic-film-culture/question mark source equals chat.com musical muses the impact of classic films on pop culture classics authority. 10. ew.com/theater/almost-famous-musical-costumes-david-zinn/question mark source equals chat.com how David Zinn recreated the 1970s music scene with his almost famous musical. costumes. 11. en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Penny Lane Trumbull.
Source equals chat.com, Penny Lane Trumbull.
12. www.newyorker.com/culture/comment/we-support-the-music-groupie?. Source equals chat.com/we support the music /reconsidering the groupie. What makes Almost Famous feel so alive isn't just the story, it's the way the story is told. At its heart, it's a meditation on youth, love, music, and truth. William Miller's journey mirrors that moment when we grow up just enough to realize what mattered, who matters, and where truth fits in our story. Cameron Crowe blended memory and meaning so that Almost Famous doesn't feel like a film, it feels like a memory. It's personal, not polished. It smells like backstage cigarette haze, echoes with chorus lines, and tastes like the first time music lifted you out of routine. Crowe didn't once phone in nostalgia. He shaped it. The story is simple on the surface. A kid goes on tour and learns hard lessons. But the characters, they're emotional touchstones. William's innocence and ambition represent our younger selves, the people who believe in icons, trust heart, and think love is simple. By the end, William becomes someone different, brave enough to write truth even when he loses love or approval. Penny Lane symbolizes freedom wrapped in fragility. She's the mythic muse, but also the soul who knows life isn't just glamour. She shows William and US that caring doesn't equal safety. Russell Hammond plays the rock god, only to reveal a man with doubt, ego, and self-doubt. He tears down his own pedestal, and Lester Bangs is the voice whispering rules you refuse to teach yourself: honesty, emptiness, and fame, and how to stay uncool. These characters carry ideas bigger than themselves: freedom versus obligation, intimate connection versus fame's guilt, the surgeon's cut of truth versus the anesthetic of loyalty. Crowe doesn't lecture, he lets the situations reveal truth. The result is a film that feels universal through specific moments. Nostalgia and drama balance without one swallowing the other. Crowe reminds us there's beauty in imperfection, joy in messiness. Music becomes more than decoration. It becomes mirror, motive, confession. Scenes like the bathroom dance, the backstage anxieties, the handwritten notes, they build emotional layers. Almost Famous becomes not just a film, but a feeling. This is the gift of the movie. It doesn't ask, do you like rock music? It asks, have you ever felt seen, broken, and brave all at once? And most people nod because there was that time, maybe teenage, maybe mid-20s, when music lifted them and reality hurt. This movie stitches those moments together. For me and for many others, Almost Famous stands at the top of rock dramas and coming-of-age tales. It remains, after decades, deeply resonant. From an emotional standpoint, it's beautifully acted. Patrick Fugit gives a performance so honest that you feel William's heart behind every expression. Kate Hudson turns Penny into something mythic and heartbreaking at once. She doesn't just play the character, she carries her essence. Billy Crudup does the difficult role of a rock star idol who crashes into humanity, and we watch it happen with discomfort and grace. And Philip Seymour Hoffman owns every second he's on screen, giving mentor weight to every lesson he delivers. From a writing standpoint, Crowe is helping us believe that every detail matters. The dialogue is textured and lived in family jokes, late-night riffs, confessions whispered when dawn is near. He trusts silence as much as words, allowing tension and tenderness to breathe. Generations connect differently to this film. People who lived through the 70s see a documentary like Reconstruction. Younger audiences see a dream and idealized time when music was pure and adolescence felt cinematic but also tender. In both cases, the emotional honesty translates. Even if you weren't there, you feel you understand what it might have felt like. The film helps you believe in the idea that music can save you or at least keep you honest long enough to find your own story. That's why Williams' journey matters. He goes from fandom to independent writer. He learns that truth can hurt people he loves. He breaks, forgives, and grows. He becomes himself, not an echo of an idol. The final emotional payoff when the band signs off on his article feels earned, not convenient. When Penny cries and William whispers, "I did it," it's a release. Not because everything's perfect, but because he stayed true. That humility is rare in film heroes, but it feels right here. On a practical note, Almost Famous helped influence a wave of music stories that are character first. Begin Again, Sound of Metal, Blinded by the Light, all lean gently into the emotional side of music rather than exploit spectacle. That's a creative legacy rooted in script choices, music choices, and emotional integrity. For me personally, Almost Famous feels like a friendlier version of That Thing You Do. Heartfelt, ironic at times, always honest. It reminds me why I loved listening to albums on Walkmans, writing in sleepovers, and sharing songs with people who got you. It reminds me that the first ridiculous crash crush or being the only one dancing can teach you more than a stadium ever will. So, does the film have flaws? Maybe for some, it's too romantic, too lettered with nostalgia. But Crowe's strength is admitting that memories aren't perfect. They're emotional. And Almost Famous doesn't pretend otherwise. It puts you in that bus, that hotel lobby, that heartbreak moment, and it doesn't flinch. It also reminds us that love isn't always neat and that innocence can survive heartbreak once you accept what it costs. It shows fame as fragile, writing as a calling, and silence as companionable pain. Final word. At the end of the day, Almost Famous is beyond just being a great rock movie. It's a soulful story about growing up, making mistakes, and finding your voice. It's a film that knows plenty about being romantic and everything about being messy. It sticks because it's honest, not perfect. It moves you because music moves you. It stays with you because the characters stay true not to themselves, but to who they become. If the world needs more stories told with that much heart and grit, it's here and it's unforgettable. Sure, here's your call to action section written in a natural, engaging tone, just like someone wrapping up a heartfelt movie chat with a friend. The section is 400 words as requested. Call to action, 400 words. So now that we've dug deep into Almost Famous, here's the real question. What do you do with all of this? If the movie hit you in the heart or even just made you feel something you can't quite name, don't let it end with the credits. Rewatch with new eyes. Seriously, go back and watch it again. Not just to see what you missed plot-wise, but to pay attention to the small things. Watch how Penny looks at Russell when he's not looking. Notice the way William's mom holds her breath every time the phone rings. Listen to the lyrics playing in the background, not just what the characters say, but what the music is saying for them. Every moment is layered. Every silence is intentional. Crowe doesn't waste a frame. Discussion prompts, want to start conversation, people thinking, try asking these. What does Penny Lane represent to you? Is she just a romantic fantasy or something deeper? A symbol of freedom? A warning about losing yourself? Everyone sees her differently, and that's kind of the point. Where do you draw the line between truth and kindness? William wrestles with this the whole time. Can you be honest without hurting people? Or does honesty always come with a price? These aren't just film questions, they're life questions. Join the community. Post your own almost famous moment. What song pulled you out of a hard time? What lyric made you feel seen? What's your tiny dancer moment, the time music saved you? Share your thoughts online. Recommend your favorite music films. Make a playlist of songs from the movie that still give you chills. Because the truth is, the best stories, like the best songs, aren't meant to sit still. They're meant to be passed around, talked about, played loud, and remembered. So go ahead, press play, sing out loud, and never forget what Lester Bangs said. The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. If you want, I can format this all into one flowing, ready-to-publish document. Let me know